Hey everybody. All right, so let's talk some HR today. We've been doing quite a bit of training and releasing it to everyone about deciding what your human inventory looks like, and we can't do a lot of conversation about that without having a conversation about HR. Every company has to have it in some capacity. Sometimes it's someone who does HR and a bunch of other things. Sometimes it's a whole department. But we want to make sure that our HR piece in our company also has its own elements to measure and monitor so we know how it's working with our operations department. HR has so many different tasks, from making sure people get paid to making sure that things are compliant. But at the same time, especially if we're working in a company that needs skilled labor or is looking for a certain type of employee, it can be a handful to make sure that the human inventory of our organizations are meeting the bar. So I almost feel like HR is needing to be kind of the thermostat in our organization as to the types of employees that we're looking for, rather than a thermometer. And if you've ever heard that kind of analogy before, if you think about it, you walk into a room, the thermostat is set and the air kind of rises to the temperature of a room, rather than somebody who walks in and takes the temperature of a room. So we want HR to kind of be the catalyst to keep the level of our employees up to a certain level. They're doing the vetting, they're doing kind of the recruiting. So they're a really integral part of our human inventory. So we want to make sure that we're all kind of talking the same language and working together on this. So the first thing is, how long does it take us when we identify an opening in our organization, whether it be an existing opening or whether we're going to start hiring for new openings? How long does it take us from that moment to the moment where we pull the trigger and say, okay, we've found a valid candidate and we're going to hire? That does not include your onboarding process. It just is the amount of time it takes you to actually find and make a decision on a candidate. Like I said, skilled labor sometimes can be a little bit longer of a runway, but it makes it all that much more important that this is something that we're looking at. So that's the first one. The second one is recruiting in our off season. And I refer to off season as kind of the amount of time where you don't have openings. I do have some customers or some clients that coach with me that say, oh, well, we always have openings. And that is a very valid comment. However, there are some periods in our business where we know we have a larger opening. We know that we have an attrition in our employee rate. So what are we doing knowing that we typically need to do more hiring in that moment? Recruiting and hiring for companies is kind of like a sales funnel, in my opinion. We don't ever want to stop a sales funnel. The more information or more recruits that we put in the top of the funnel, the more likely we are to come out with a valid candidate. Same thing with the sales funnel. We don't ever want to stop a sales funnel, because then it would put a lag in our sales results. So if we start with a sales funnel or a recruiting funnel, we want to make sure that we're constantly putting new things in the top of the funnel. If we're not, then the likelihood that we get valid candidates in the bottom is slim to none. So what does that process look like? Do we have a process identified to locate enough people to go into the funnel? And then how are we, brings me to my next one, how are we vetting those people so that we make sure we have valid candidates? Now, a lot of HR departments will kind of stand back and go, oh, we've got this. We know what it looks like. We know what we screen for. The next kind of level to that is, does that mesh with your operations department? If we look at your turnover numbers, are you turning over in a certain department more than you are in another department? do we need to mesh that with your operations department and figure out, are we hiring for the wrong qualities? Are we hiring the wrong people for that seat in the bus? Because it's costly to onboard. It's costly to offboard. So where are we seeing those gaps? We talk a lot about we can't measure what we don't monitor, but if we're not watching that, then all of the work that we do internally with your existing employees and your existing human inventory kind of goes out the window because we're not using the information that we have in front of us. This is what we know works. This is what we know doesn't work. So if we're not using that information to then recruit and vet to come on board, we're kind of wasting time and in the end wasting money. So we want to make sure that what we see in front of us and we know works are the same types of people, the same types of credentials that we're pushing into the funnel and then going through the vetting process. The last step is networking. And I know that this is a little bit different today than it really has ever been before. However, it's just as important that our HR departments are as networked in our industries as our operations people are. Just like our sales department would be, our HR department needs to be, because that's where they're going to reach out and find the contacts for our young, newly educated employees. It's where we're going to find the companies that are adjusting or turnover that's happening in other organizations, where we're going to find our most experienced employees that could be potentially looking or that we are hiring, and we're opening our doors for new opportunities. We cannot leave that up solely to our operations department to do that kind of recruiting for us. HR needs to be involved in that. They should be controlling the message just as much as the marketing team. HR holds such a large umbrella and has so much weight on their shoulders. It's hard to almost say, gosh, take this on too. But this is another reason why we want that message to be so universal across our entire company, across our sales department, operations, HR, marketing. Everything needs to be so consistent, but you still have to have somebody that's willing to say, okay, that's our department to measure and monitor. That's our department to control those controllables. Those are our leading indicators to watch, so that when the lagging indicators come out, we know who's watching them and who's responsible for them. So if we are successfully networking, if we are successfully recruiting in our off season, and we have been the thermostat in our company to kind of raise the caliber of employee that we're looking for so that we have less turnover and we have a better goal in mind so that we can focus on other initiatives, other places in the company, then we have a different kind of employee or potential employee that can then go through our vetting process, which would then look like these gates that we've talked about in other places, and you will end up with a different qualified candidate. All of that goes specifically with our operations department. And when it comes down to hiring when needed, we have a pool of candidates, or even better, we minimize the need for on-demand hiring. So we don't have those huge pockets in our calendar that say, oh gosh, in September, we know we have to hire a bunch, or in January, we know we have to hire a bunch. And we can kind of level that off while at the same time raising the caliber of our employees. So it's a huge topic. Our HR departments always are working so hard for us, but it gives us an opportunity to help them out and measure and monitor a little bit more and share the wealth and share the burden a little bit with our operations department. So if there's any questions or follow-up on this, we'd love to come in and help you and help kind of mesh some of those conversations a little bit. And feel free to reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, email, or our YouTube channel. So I hope everybody's taking just a little bit of time to breathe life in and you're staying healthy and well. Have a great day, everybody.